Senator Kolkhorst for a motion on the conference committee report for Senate Bill 17.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Before I move to adopt the conference committee report on Senate Bill 17, I want to thank some of the House members that are here present on the floor, Chair Cole Hefner, who I've worked with for months now on this bill, and he has some great folks, other members from the Texas House that are throughout the floor. And this has been a collaborative effort in creating probably the strongest prohibition of adversarial land and natural resource ownership in the country. This is a bill that keeps foreign adversaries, our enemies, from being able to buy Texas land out from underneath us. Members, I do want to just walk you through some of the changes that the House made. I believe that they strengthen this bill through the process, from the committee substitute to the floor amendments to the, my goodness, I think it was 6 or 7 hours of debate between second and third reading. And they brought that bill back to us. We went to conference, so let's talk about what we did. In Section 3 of the bill, the Senate version includes definitions for agriculture, land, designated country, governing authority, governing person, organization, and real property. The House version adds definition for company, domiciled, and transnational criminal organizations. The House version also changes the requirement of a designated country being on each of the 3 recent annual threat assessments of the U.S. intelligence community in the Senate version to only needing to be at least on one of the 3 most recent ATAs in the House version. There was a great amount of debate when this bill left the Senate. You could lease a property or a building for 100 years. The House, through an amendment process, it was actually an amendment, then there was an amendment to the amendment, which is being a former House member, I appreciate that, where you can only lease property for 1 year. The most talked about part of this bill was what I call, has been referred to as the Shaheen Amendment, that was added on the floor during second reading. After much discussion, there was an attempt on a third reading amendment to narrow the Shaheen Amendment by Representative Toth. It failed because it wasn't able to get 100 votes. It got 86 votes. And so let me explain that portion of the bill. The Senate version of Senate Bill 17 includes resident homestead exemption. The House version of Senate Bill 17 accepts from prohibited persons, Visa card holders, to purchase all types of property and natural resource. The conference committee marries these 2 provisions where the residence homestead exemption is restored, but it is limited to those lawfully present. So it was a combination of but it is limited to those lawfully present. So it was a combination of our efforts. There was certainly some concern over anyone just being here on a tourist visa that could buy land all that they wanted, or they could buy an apartment building. They could buy land, natural resources. So what we did was we narrowed that to a homestead, and we agreed on that. That was the biggest change that happened during the conference committee report. There is also something else that I want to say that the House added. A new provision, not in the Senate version, that adds a governor designation. The governor must consult with the public safety director of the Department of Public Safety, as well as the Homeland Security Council, to determine whether the purchase or acquisition of an interest in real property in this state by an individual or an entity poses a risk to the national security of the public. The governor may make or remove such a designation of a country or a transnational criminal organization. This provision would only apply to purchases or acquisitions that occur on or after the date of the governor's designation or removal of the designation of the entity. The House adds also a section that creates an offense and specifies the penalty. The House also creates a civil penalty. In the House version, there is an added provision that is not in the Senate version, that the Attorney General shall adopt rules for this implementation as soon as practical after the effective date. The House version adds a severability clause that was not in the Senate version. And finally, the House version adds a provision that references and summarizes the 2020 annual threat assessment of the U.S. intelligence community that is not in the Senate version. You will find that on the opening pages that restates the 2025 version of the annual threat assessment. With that, Mr. President, I want to thank all the members in the Senate who have worked on this bill since it was Senate Bill 147. We were able to get it out. I know Chairman Hughes and his Committee on State Affairs heard hours and hours of testimony. They certainly did in the House as well. And that this version that we are now going to vote on is the strongest protection. It's a national security bill. It's the strongest protection that any state has passed. And with that, I move to adopt the Conference Committee report for Senate Bill 17.
Senator Kolkhorst moves adoption of the Conference Committee report on Senate Bill 17. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook.
There being 25 ayes and 6 nays, the Conference Committee report on Senate Bill 17 is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members, and thank you, Texas House of Representatives, for a great job, well done, and a wonderful partnership. This is about national security and protecting Texas in the future.